right, here's some bonus content, all right? And I want to kind of make it brief, but very relevant. Before I get into it, what I want to do is frame your perspective, not from where you are as an employee at your job, or maybe when you were an employee before you retired. I want you to kind of get into the frame of mind as a board member who needs to have the best individual at the helm or in the driver's seat of your organization based on the particular situation your organization is in at this moment. Okay? So with that being said, not every CEO is good for every credit union, and not every CEO is good for every credit union based on their particular need at this moment in time. All right. So let's just talk about, like, say, for example, you have a credit union that's having asset quality issues, and that you have bad loans on the books. You're trying to figure out how to work your way out of it. At this point in time, you may need a CEO that's really good at workouts and turnarounds that can turn your institution around, stop the bleeding, right? Stop the hemorrhaging, patch up the credit union, and get it back stable. Unfortunately, in my experience, the same individual that has the skill sets needed to stabilize your organization isn't the same individual that you may need to grow your institution. Two different skill sets. What can happen with boards sometimes, you can be so thankful, so impressed by the fact that maybe before this guy or gal or what have you, you were floundering and failing because of your loan issues. Okay, this person comes in, rights the ship, and they're your hero. But they're your hero for what they were able to do for you in that moment. You paid them a good wage. Hopefully, you bonused them now. But as they try to shift from being, if you will, a wartime CEO to a peacetime CEO who needs to grow an institution, they may not have the requisite knowledge, skills, and ability to do that. You have to make that assessment. You have to thank them for their service and move in a different direction. Otherwise, you may not be hemorrhaging anymore, but your institution may be stagnant. Let's discuss new CEOs. Specifically, let's discuss new CEOs who come behind longer standing CEOs. So let me give you a scenario. You've had a CEO in place 20, 30 years. All right. This individual has done amazing for your institution, grown it. You appreciate this individual. And as such, you've given this individual more latitude, more scope of authority in your institution from a governance perspective than perhaps maybe you should have. But I mean, you know Kim, you know Jerry. He's been great. Nothing's ever happened. Been the CEO for 30 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is, all right? What happens often that what would happen is a board will what happens often is that a board will give the new CEO the exact same space and latitude that they've already been giving this CEO that's just retired, not having had that individual earn that space first. And I've seen it time and time again. Institutions get into hot water thinking that the new person is just like the older person. All right. That's why I always recommend long-standing CEOs to right-size the expectations of their board, saying, hey, you're going to have somebody else. We need to get our governance in place. You know those things that I typically do, like pick your strategic planning facilitator, how I lead all your board meetings, and I get involved in things that typically should be just for board members. You know what? Y'all need to stop that. Okay? When I retire, the next person may abuse some of the privileges you've given me. In my opinion, I think that's the true tale of a tape of a CEO. Not what they do while they're there, but how they leave the organization. What shape do you leave the organization when you go off into retirement down in Florida or whatever? Are they going to be in bad shape? Or do they know how to stand on their own 2 feet without you there? Or were you one of these individuals that need an organization to need you for you to feel valuable? As a board, you can't afford that, because remember what I said. No matter how long a person has been at the helm, this institution still doesn't belong to them. They don't own it. As a representative of ownership, as a board member, you should always make sure that there's continuity there in process and procedures. Okay. One other quick thing about CEOs that are getting ready to retire. Boards, nail down a specific retirement date from your CEOs when they're within 5 years of their retirement, when they're thinking about it, so that you can properly plan for it. Also, within that 5 years, you got to kind of keep the gas on that individual, because what some CEOs do, they'll retire on the job to the detriment of the organization. Now, what some CEOs do have around them is a very senior and very capable management team that while they're retiring on the job and golfing more, everything still pushes forward. But as a board member, you need to pay attention as your executive is getting toward retirement. Are we slipping in any of our ratios? And if we are, then you may need to push them out and hasten their departure, because we can't afford to lose any momentum. All right. And got one other thing I wanted to mention about milestones and longer standing CEOs. Imagine a CEO that's taken your institution from $200 million in assets to $1 billion in assets. And we're getting ready to do strategic planning, and we want to outline our charge to go from $1 billion to $5 billion, $5 billion to $10 billion. But now the CEO got a little tired. They took it from 200 million to 1 billion. They may say, you know what? Why do we need to grow anymore? We're already at $1 billion. Why don't we just slow down? Well, here's the thing. This guy or gal has already paid for their kids to go to school, got their second home in Florida, got their nice car. Through all of that asset growth, they have all they need. But you got other individuals up and down your org chart that may have just come on within the last 3 to 5 years that want an opportunity to grow with the institution as well. You as a board have to keep the focus forward. I'm not saying growth for the sake of growth, but in my opinion, growth is what keeps your institution pushing forward, keeps it from getting stagnant, keeps your institution innovating, and also provides room for your talent to have somewhere to go up and down your org chart. But if you're stagnant, you'll lose people. So if there's a CEO that hit that billion mark, that $500 million mark, and they're like, whew, how about we just stay here for a little while? As a board, you got to keep the pedal to the metal with your organization. All right. Stagnation reduces imagination. I just made that up.